Okay, so botany is a broad topic. When you say botany, you're saying a lot. It is an umbrella that covers anatomy, so the external appearance. Then you can go inside and talk about how it works, the internal functionings or physiology. Then you can put it together into groups based on outward morphology, and we call that taxonomy, which is an entirely other science. Then you can look at how they function with other species, how they interact with their neighbors, that's ecology. Then you can take a look at how people can make money off of plants and manage their range, that's range management. And then finally you can take a look at the science of when things grow, when things bloom, when things senesce or die. So here we go. Now we're not going to do all that. We're going to do some anatomy, we're going to do some taxonomy, and that's about all we're going to get to today. We've already talked a little bit about, well, I guess we're going to do a little bit of ecology too. Role in the ecosystem, you need to understand that plants are producers. What does that mean? Well, it means that they are capable of making their own food. They use the light energy from the sun to, well, we'll back that up. They're using light energy from the sun to make their own sugar. But are plants the only producers in the ecosystem? You have the part. You have the answers in front of you. That's the bad part. Our plants are not the only producers in the ecosystem, and you need to remember that. That's an important concept. There's plants, there's algae, which are not plants. Algae is the photosynthetic organisms that have a simple body structure. And then getting even simpler than that, single cell bacteria that have the pigment capable of doing photosynthesis, the cyanobacteria, which were indeed the first photosynthetic organisms about 2.7 billion years ago. That's when photosynthesis showed up for the first time on the planet. We do have photosynthetic bacteria on Konza, nostoc. We have some nostoc on Konza in Kings Creek. And so if we get real ambitious sometime, we can go out and start looking for nostoc. The downfall of that is that bacteria has a different type of cell than the more advanced organisms like plants and algae. And bacteria, being a small cell, you cannot see very easily with the naked eye, so you need a light microscope, and we do not have any light microscopes here. So that makes life a little interesting there. So photosynthesis, it's an important chemical reaction that I think you need to know. Photosynthesis involves the intake of carbon dioxide and water. The light energy helps us break the bonds. There we go. Helps us break the bonds between the carbon dioxide and the water. So this is what goes into the equation. This is the only biological process that takes in carbon dioxide. This is an important part. Water. Plants have to have water in order to do photosynthesis. That's absolutely essential that you know that. People say, okay, we understand that you need to use carbon, or that plants need to have carbon dioxide. Well, plants need to have water. So in the absence of water, they are not capable of making their own food. Now, it's going to be pretty extreme absence of water. That's going to be like the last thing to shut down. But they have to take in carbon dioxide, and they take in water. They use the light energy. It usually comes in here at this arrow. They take the light energy, breaks the bonds of the water, helps them break the bonds of the carbon dioxide, rearranges everything, and out comes your products. So you've got ingredients going into the equation and output products of the equation. So the output products, we have 6 molecules of oxygen, and then we have 1 molecule of glucose. Glucose is a simple sugar. That's the food. And it's helpful to see that a glucose has 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. That is the basis of the ecosystem right there. That's the foundation. That's where we get our food. If a plant has more glucose than it needs, it hooks those glucose, they're in a ring, it hooks those glucose rings together in a long chain, and we call that starch. That's the storage molecule. If you flip those glucoses around, where you have one going up and one going down, they go every other direction, we call that cellulose or fiber. So plants are capable of making their own food, and they're also capable of making their own structural molecules. The fiber is the box that goes around every cell and helps hold up the plant. If you eat plant products, you're eating fiber. Can we digest cellulose? Can we digest fiber? No. Nope. That's what keeps you regular. And if you're not eating your fruits and vegetables, you're taking your Metamucil to keep you regular. Okay, so plants make their own food through photosynthesis. They have to have exposure to light. They release oxygen as a byproduct of photosynthesis. And notice that the terminology is very specific. They release oxygen. Do plants make oxygen? No, you cannot make an element. This is a topic that you have to understand. Plants, organisms can't make elements. There's only so many elements present on this planet. The only way we're going to get new elements is if we get some space junk landing. Meteorites, that's the only way we get new elements. We reuse, recycle our elements constantly. Backing up to our equation. This is the source of all of the oxygen in the atmosphere that allows us to breathe. Just as a point of trivia, that oxygen originally came from that water molecule. So water is the source of the oxygen that's released during photosynthesis. That's a trivia point. Okay, so B, plant taxonomy. Taking a look at how organisms are grouped together. And because plants are sessile, because plants, yeah?
On the equation, there seems, I heard some discussion back there. It seems like we're short of something. Because you said six oxygens.
It has to be 12. 12.
Yeah, you have to have 12.
Well, you have some O's over here too.
Yeah, so some of us come from someplace else.
Yeah.
It's not really.
Maybe this.
Yeah, no, it's not, you're right. It is not that important. I heard some conversation.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be, I just didn't want to throw off the,
Yeah, that's true.
What's the problem?
it doesn't balance, you put it in the
So
Look at
this
their
is
hydrogens.
Where does it not balance?
The hydrogens.
There's 12 hydrogens. You have 6 molecules of H2. How many hydrogens do you have?
but you said all the oxygen has to come from,
Oh, you're talking about that.
yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
But there's,
balance.
oh, I see what you're talking, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about. Okay,
sorry.
got it. All right, more than just that water. Other waters too, how's that? It comes from the water. There's different G's here than you people. Okay. B, plant taxonomy based on morphology. The term morphology, a lot of people think of morphology as changing, because they think of the Mighty Morphing Power Rangers. Morph means appearance, and morphology is the study of their appearance, outward appearance. Morphing would be changing their appearance. So we have our basic breakdowns of plants. We first have to understand what a plant is versus a non-plant, and then we need to talk about what a vascular plant is as opposed to a non-vascular plant, because we throw that term around, vascular plants, a lot, but we need to understand what that means. And then finally, we need to understand monocots versus dicots and what that means. So jumping in. The definition for a plant, without getting too technical, is challenging. So what we can say is, not all plants have roots, not all plants have true leaves, not all plants have stems, not all plants have seeds, not all plants have flowers, not all plants have fruit. You're like, well, the obvious question would then be, what do plants have? Well, plants do photosynthesis, and plants are more complex than algae. Algae is pretty close. There's some species of algae that are very close to being plants, but they're not. And without spending a lot more time in the life cycles of plants, we can't go beyond those 2 points. But you do need to open your mind to the fact that not all plants are going to have flowers. That's a big one. Not all plants are going to have fruits. Not all plants are going to have roots. In fact, we're going to see some plants today that don't have roots. I guarantee it. So the next part, the next division, is non-vascular versus vascular plants. Well, the vascular tissues we see here in the veins of a leaf are internal tubes. They're the tubes that are delivering the water and the sugar throughout the plant. Non-vascular plants, like mosses and liverworts, are your most primitive types of plants. They are, because they don't have vascular tissue, because they don't have those internal pipes delivering water and sugar, they are going to be short. They are going to live in moist environments. The most primitive plants don't have flowers, and if you don't have flowers, you don't have fruit. These guys also don't make seeds. For reproduction, they use a spore. A spore is a single cell that's surrounded by a protein coat. So in lieu of a nice big seed that has all kinds of food in it and it has a little baby embryo in it, they have a single cell surrounded by a protein coat. They managed to make do with that though, but they are only going to grow in moist environments. No roots. So here's some more. Whoops. There's. So we have mosses on Konza. We also have some of these guys, liverworts. A liverwort is another very primitive plant. That is somebody's hand to give you a frame of reference. So we have kind of the fringe structure. This is moss, and then this is a liverwort. And the term liverwort is kind of an old English type term. Wort refers to plant, and liver because somebody imagined that this thallus, this is not a true leaf, but this thallus looked something like somebody's liver. I don't know whose liver. The reason why it is not a true leaf is because it doesn't have vascular tissue.
Is it possible they used the liverwort for medicine?
That was the conception.
Yeah.
It is not, it doesn't have medicinal value, but that was
Right,
the
but
thought.
I mean, that's maybe why they call it.
Maybe why they called it, yes. It's good for your liver.
Yeah,
Well,
You know, wort refers to a drink, and
okay.
so you ground it up and drank.
yeah.
That was the
Well,
old
we'll give you
doctor.
some ground up liverworts and
I
we'll
need it.
see how you do. Okay, so the vascular plants are the vast majority of the plants on Earth. They have the vascular tissue that allows them to thrive in a variety of conditions. They're going to be taller than the non-vascular plants. They have roots, and they don't have to live right near the water. Now a plant, so the water is absorbed by the roots, and water generally goes up from the roots, and it's kind of moving laterally as it goes up, but it is going to be absorbed by the roots. Now I've seen lots of people in greenhouses with the spray hoses, and they're spraying the leaves of the plant. Not real effective watering. You water the roots of the plant. The leaves are not going to be absorbing the water. The sugar, the glucose, is going to be made in the leaves, in the parts of the plant that are exposed to the light. Not all parts of a plant do photosynthesis, but all of the cells need food. So the glucose is the food, and the glucose is going to be moving from the leaves downward, generally, to all of the cells of the plant. If there's excess, then it's probably going to be stored somewhere along the way. It likes to store the excess glucose or starch down underground.